Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Celtic and Rangers go head to head for a place in the Scottish Cup final. Holders Hibs face Aberdeen. And Arsenal need a miracle in the Champions League. Yeah, just a few of the talking points on the programme. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. It's Monday. It's Mark Guidi as our boot room guest to talk about the weekend's football, the draw for the Scottish Cup as well. And we'll look at some of the papers this morning and the main headlines. Of course, Celtic booked their place in the semi-finals of the Scottish Cup with a 4-1 win over St Mirren, which prompted this headline in the newspapers from Brendan Rodgers. Saints are the best Scottish side we've faced this season. There's always a great wee headline that annoys the life out of everybody else, Mark, and that's one of them again. Yeah,
a big surprise to read that. However, having watched the game on television yesterday, Peter, you've got to say, credit to St Mirren, and they were the wood to the crossbar from going 2-0 up when Dembele's deflected that free kick. That would have been really nervy for Celtic, but they got there in the end. The quality of Sinclair and Dembele, Sean again, Lustig, getting the equaliser. But yes, for Jack Ross and these players, they deserve all the credit going.
Yeah, if they can't get a lift out of that to avoid relegation, they'll never will, Ruffy.
Yeah, they should get a lift for the first 45 minutes. I thought they were super in the first 45 minutes, but as we usually happens, Celtic just wear you down, chance after chance. But yeah, I think they'll take a lot of credit out of it, and he'll pick the good bits of it and move on. But you would certainly think that St Mirren are a far, far better side than what they were a couple of months ago.
Yeah, just a couple of points that emerged from that game and Celtic's win. Craig Gordon should be signing a new deal this week, which will be a bonus. Moussa Dembele's also come out after that win. 32 incidentally now, Ruffy, only 8 away from yet another big defeat for you. And he says he's a better player under Brendan Rodgers.
Well, I think if you look at Moussa Dembele from August, September time, I can't remember the specific game, Peter, but he got a bit of stick one of the games. I think one of the goals was if he wasn't celebrating one of the European qualifiers. Then all of a sudden he took that pressure penalty in the qualifier against the Israeli team, I think, and he's kicked on from there. Is he a better player? Absolutely. 9 months down the line, he's got to be his movement, his touch, his physique, and that's why he's got the top clubs in Europe chasing him, and that's why if Celtic decide to sell him in the summer, he'll go to one of the best clubs and he won't go for a penny less than 35 million quid.
Yeah. In a season like this, Ruffy, there's nothing like 6 Old Firm encounters, and we are about to witness yet another one, because here is the Scottish Cup draw. It's Celtic against Rangers in the semi-final, and it's Aberdeen who are going to be taking on Hibernian. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think there was a truthful quote from Derek McInnes saying they're happy to miss Celtic. I think obviously Hibs and Aberdeen, that would be the draw they wanted, and they've got it, and you could see how pleased he was about it. But no, I think we all love Celtic Rangers games. Okay, sometimes you get crackers, sometimes you don't, but I think the atmosphere and everything that goes with it is a great game to be at, and also if you're not there, it's a great game to watch as well.
Yeah, well, we're going to sample one coming up this week in the league. Do you think Rangers wanted another semi-final? Although I read a stat that Celtic haven't beaten Rangers in a Scottish Cup semi-final since 1925.
Yeah, it's an incredible statistic, Peter, and you think of this time last year, we were all preparing for that Old Firm semi-final, Ronnie Deila against Mark Warburton. That defeat cost Ronnie Deila his job, and that victory probably maybe set the expectation level at Rangers maybe a wee bit too high, and they didn't go on to win the Cup. Hibs beat them, and they were free fall for most of the season. Now both managers aren't there. I think if you're the new Rangers manager, if it's going to be Cassagna, he would probably rather the semi-finals against Hibs or Aberdeen to give him a better chance of getting to the final, and that would give him an extra 5-6 weeks to prepare with the players for getting Celtic. But look, you take what you get. You get on with it. Huge money for winning this game as well and getting to the final. So plenty at stake for Rangers.
Yeah, just briefly on that with you two guys here. I mean, I read Keith Jackson saying that maybe it'd be a good idea for Cassagna to come in after this Old Firm game rather than he's suddenly into the melting pot in a game where there's a complete mismatch. And I talk about financial. I mean, Old Firm games can go anyway.
Yes, I think it'd be wise to avoid it. You know, what you don't need coming in is to be in the end of a heavy one. That said, it's a free hit. It gives him a chance to really see the mentality of his players up close, what they're all about, and maybe Rangers will think, well, with a new guy in charge, if ever we're going to have a better chance of doing something, then why not throw him in?
Yeah. Ruffy, did the referee John Beaton do Rangers a turn in getting through to the semi-finals with his display against Hamilton?
Yeah, well, obviously there was two decisions that once you get a chance to see them again, I think he would have changed it. I didn't think it was a penalty.
Yep.
I think the boy went down later, than what he should have done, and I think if the referee never noticed it, the linesman should have noticed it, and same with the goalkeeper. I thought the linesman should have helped the referee out, because he must have been in line with that to see that he was outside the box. I didn't know that was a straight red card, and I thought it would have been a booking, but seemingly the referees that I've listened to are saying it would have been a red card. Yeah,
I'm glad you've narrowed it down to 2. Are you just keeping Joe Garner on the park for...
Yeah, well, it was funny. I know, and I never say that two tackles are the same, but I looked at the Hibs Ayr United one, and it was sort of a similar for the big Ayr United centre half, but he caught the boy in the midriff, whereas the boot from Gardner was sort of around the back of his backside. But both of them rash. There's no doubt about it. But there are other referees would have sent them off.
Yeah, but you think it was a yellow?
Yeah, I thought it was a yellow. Yeah, I don't think it was a deliberate tackle. It was a mistimed tackle, same as the Ayr United boy.
Yeah, okay. Mark's staying quiet on at the moment, so we move on. If the don't forget, Ruffy's got his own American football show and Aussie Rules football during the night if you want to watch that. The next thing I was going to say to you guys is Walter Smith, interestingly enough, on Sky Sports mentioned that he thought it should have been Derek McInnes. I think the general feeling I get from quite a lot of journalists is the feeling that it's a risk for Rangers if they don't get this one right. Do you think it's a risk bringing in a coach who's got a good pedigree, but he doesn't really have a grasp of Scottish football?
I think it's a massive risk, Peter, and I'm really surprised that Rangers are going down the road. That said, I've not sat in front with him. Well, he was very impressive at his interview, but I do agree with Walter Smith. I would, Derek McInnes. There's a number of candidates, but Walter singled out Derek McInnes, and I can't disagree with that. He knows his stuff. He's good. He knows Rangers, and you're also weakening a direct competitor if you take him away from Aberdeen. That's not to say that Derek would accept it 100%. There's also a lot that he would want to find out too. But to back to the original point, I think it's a massive risk to bring in Cassagna. He might be good, but for me, Rangers needed to appoint somebody that certainly knows about Scottish football and knows what the club's all about. Totally understands the enormity of the job, what the Rangers fans are feeling, what's at stake against Celtic. And with all respect to foreign guys who come in, they don't get it. They kind of get it, but not fully, not enough for me.
What about the director of football, you guys? Because this one is dragging on. Ross Wilson apparently just delaying it even more. And he's a guy who's got a grasp of Scottish football. What's your take on that?
I would think it's all about, what he's walking into. I think he's waiting to see, what's on the table, where they're going to go, what direction they're going to go, obviously the finances of the club, and what his job is going to be once the new guy comes in. So I think he's just weighing up everything that's there, and then he'll decide whether it's a better deal than where he is. Yeah,
just before we go to the break, Mark, on that point, there's this constant battle that's going on at the moment. Dave King in charge, how much money is going to be put in. I think that's the key to a director of football and a manager, Mark. I think the bigger issue is all about at boardroom level. Yeah. David Provan mentioned that, Rangers got to be the only club that have, shunned a billionaire in Mike Ashley to go down this route with Dave King. But there are going to be bigger questions for the board and the chairman than any manager, I think, this summer.
Yeah, they've got to go and find funds, and regardless whether it's Cassagna, McInnes, Billy Davis, Tommy Wright, Gary Rowett, whatever you want to mention, they are going to need funds. People are going to have to be given a budget to pretty much clear the decks, because there's too many guys in the Rangers squad that, in my opinion, certainly aren't going to be good enough if you want to go and catch Celtic. So you're going to need substantial money. Where that money comes from, I really don't know, but that's up to Dave King and the board to go and try and find it. And if they can't, if they exhaust all avenues, then I'm sure they will try everything that's open to them. Then they have to let the Rangers fans know.
Yeah, okay. After the break, We're going to talk Aberdeen and Hibernian as well. We'll look at the Champions League 2. Here's a question for you to take you into the break. When was the last time Aberdeen won the Scottish Cup? It might surprise you. We'll give you the answer after this short break. Yeah, the answer to the quiz, 1990. Do you remember that final, Mark Guidi?
Yeah, penalty shootout. Brian Irvine got the winner. Was it 9-8? Was it Anton Rogan? Did he miss the last one for?
Yep, good memory.
Celtic.
Great memory. See that, Ruffy?
Brilliant.
Journos never forget.
Yeah.
It's encyclopedic knowledge, to be honest with you. What were you going to say?
Told them during the break.
Yeah. I know. If only Gordon Smith was here, he'd say, yeah, I know, Ruffy, I was there with you, I saw you. But apart from anything else, 1990, 27 years ago since Aberdeen last won the Scottish Cup, which is remarkable. And Hibs, well, they don't need to worry about the last time they won the Scottish Cup. That monkey is well and truly off their back. And I have to say, John McGinn, week in, week out, Ruffy just continues to excel. The goal was sublime.
Yeah, I think we've already spoke about him. He definitely is one for the future, but we need to see what he can do when he steps up to that level. And I think the more international games he gets, he will become a better player. But I think that was a super goal. I think it was just surpassed by the Ayr United goal. That's definitely in the goal of the season for me.
Yeah, McGuffey's goal's a cracker, but it always reminds me of Kenny Dalglish, Mark, when he scored a wonder goal against Belgium, and when people were asking him about it, he said, it doesn't matter because we lost. And I thought to myself, wow, what level are you operating at, Kenny? If it's a great goal, it's a great goal.
Yeah, well, Scotland's joint top scorer, isn't he? He scored a few crackers. The Belgium one against Spain as well, that one too. When he swivelled, yeah, McGuffey's was a great strike. John McGinn, you know, I don't think there's any question about can he operate at a higher level. He will be able to operate at a higher level, whether that's with Hibs next season in the Premiership, or if he's transferred, there's clubs sniffing about him, and he's certainly well into the seven-figure bracket now in the transfer market.
Yeah, absolutely. Bearing in mind, just a word for Ayr United, Ruffy, bearing in mind Scott McKenna's red cards, I thought they were giving a good account of themselves, and they had a good record at Easter Road, and he will feel as if he's really kind of thwarted any potential comeback they may have had on the day.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Ian McCall went there with a bit of confidence. I think the players went there with a bit of confidence. He had them set out. He was very well organised. Unfortunately, Hibs get the goals at the right time, and when the third one went in, I think that was the end of the story. But again, you know, I thought we're talking about them with relegation as well. I would like to think that game would give the players a bit of confidence to go on and maybe win games. Yeah,
if you were watching one game yesterday and you're thinking maybe the other one will be exciting, it'll be just as nervy, then Aberdeen and Partick Thistle just failed to live up to any billing whatsoever or any hype that might have been associated with it. It was dull. In the end, it was a shinny, and Graham Shinnie at that, to score a good goal to get Aberdeen through. Yeah,
it was the highlight of the game was the goal. It was a cracking goal, but apart from that, Peter, yeah, you know, you would have switched off, you wouldn't, and yet, you know, Partick Thistle, Abdul Osman's had a great chance right at the end, the header at the back post, and you know, you could argue the Thistle deserved to get a replay back at Firhill, possibly, but certainly Derek McInnes will know. Going back to Hampden, that if you look at the League Cup semi-final against Morton and the League Cup final against Celtic, not particularly good performances from Aberdeen. So now going back to Hampden against a Hibs team that will look forward to getting back there as a cup holders, they'll have to raise their game.
Yeah, and again, I mean, you find Aberdeen might be slight favourites, not as you alluded to earlier. Ruffy, Derek McInnes says that they've dodged a bullet, both sides, avoiding Celtic in the draw. I think they're really going to have to back up some of the hype that's followed them this season. They'll finish second in the table, but I think that Derek McInnes wants to deliver silverware for the Dons.
Yeah, but I think the first thing he's got to do is, as Mark just briefly touched on it there, is find out why they don't turn up in semi-finals. Well, there must be a reason. There have been poor performances. They've gone into games as favourites, and then on the day, for whatever reason, the big players don't turn up, and he'll have to really find out why that is. So I would like to see Aberdeen maybe going into a semi-final. They always seem a wee bit apprehensive to me. I would like to see them going in there and trying to go in and winning the game rather than sort of spoiling it.
Yeah, okay. I don't know why I'm asking this question, Ruffy, because it's almost as if I know the answer. We could dub an answer in from previous questions towards you. Do you think Aberdeen are going to edge this one, or will it be Hibernian?
I think this one will go all the way again with a Hibs win.
There you are. It's great, Mark, because I always like you to work with pundits who are predictable. And he sure is predictable. I don't know. I don't think it's as clear-cut as that.
Well, I think, 6 weeks to go, though, that's the thing. A lot can happen in 6 weeks, form, injuries, different things. But at the moment, I would fancy an Aberdeen-Celtic final.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't surprise me if Hibs nicked it.
Yeah. So you're going Aberdeen?
At the moment, yeah, but you know, as I say, 6 weeks to go. But I'll go Celtic Aberdeen at the moment. Just mark that down.
Yeah, I'm just going to write that down right now. Okay, Aberdeen for you. And what do you see?
I won't change my mind in 6 weeks.
No. Listen, even if there's a monumental Hibs collapse, you won't change your mind. I'm with you on it, Ruffy. I think Hibs are going to provide a wee shock in the semi-final. I'll tell you what was a wee shock at the weekend, Mark. You were there, you watched it. Great credit to Chris Boyd, scores his 200th goal. I don't think it'll mean much to him because he'll still be going back over the penalty as well. Here's the results from the Premiership and the Championship as well. But Motherwell coming back to win it by 2-1.
They did, yeah, and it takes them from 10th spot up into 8th, so it gives them a little bit of breathing space, even though it's tight. I spoke to Chris Boyd after the game. He was clearly disappointed with the 200th goal. Brilliant, only the 5th player or 6th player to do it. But the penalties just hit the inside of the post, Peter. But Motherwell won the game, huge win for them, and you have to give great credit to Craig Sampson, Motherwell goalkeeper, because he had 3 outstanding saves in that game to give Stephen Robinson a victory, and that would suggest to me that Stephen Robinson, I think, will be given the job until the end of the season. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you actually said that, Martin, because it highlights something to me. Only in football could we be in, and I'm no discredit to Stephen Robinson, but we are in an industry where people who are not tried and tested as managers can get jobs. I mean, I'm looking at Craig Shakespeare down at Leicester City, and some people are saying, he's had a couple of wins. Has that put him in the box seat to become the manager? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
No, I think there's too many managers about down there of more of a pedigree. And the way it is, if you want a top manager, then you have to go looking for them, and they have got pedigrees down there, and I would think it'd be somebody with a bit of a European experience who'd probably get it again. Yeah.
What about Stephen Robinson? Does he get a shot at it?
Yeah.
And again, it's slightly different up here because of the financial constraints of clubs.
Yeah, I think he will. I think even the first time he was there, we noticed that his coaching looks different class. He came out with a lot of ideas, even at the warm-up, that was different. So, as coaching-wise, I think the players will enjoy working under him, and obviously getting the win at the weekend. Yeah, I think he will be giving it to the end of the season.
Okay, interesting stuff. Don't forget, you can interact with us at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy, and give us your thoughts as well. All this week we'll be bringing you the build-up to the big one in the league, Celtic against Rangers. We will obviously sample the Scottish Cup game a little later on. I think April 22nd or 23rd. They'll eventually decide on the date and the time for that one. Just before we finish tonight, Champions League football, this is down to the business end. Arsenal need a miracle, and I can't see them getting it, Mark Guidi.
No, I think they're out, and I have a feeling this is going to be the end for Arsene Wenger. I think him and the club will part company in the summer. I think he's been a terrific manager for them, but I think he's got to be honest, and the board have got to do their bit as well and make the decision. And unfortunately, he didn't achieve more success, but he's certainly leaving something for somebody to go and build on.
Yeah, here are the fixtures. And again, Bayern Munich 5-1 up from the first leg. Real Madrid 3-1 up from the first leg against Napoli. You wouldn't bet against them scoring away from home as well. Just on that point that he was making there, Ruffy, you wouldn't bet against Arsene Wenger just rolling out of Arsenal and heading up to the new camp.
Yeah, well, he's obviously well thought of abroad. You know, I think his record speaks for itself. I think Arsenal in the European games have been one of the most exciting teams in it. You know, they play a great style of football, but not this time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great style of football. Losing football, that's what we like people to play open and concede a lot of goals. That's the type of match that Ruffy likes. You played really well. Can't believe the fifth one, Arsenal. It looked offside to me. Anyway, on that note, look, he's had a tough weekend. I can't even annoy him. Even when I try and hit him with a baseball bat, he's motionless. Thanks to Mark Guidi. Join us tomorrow when James McPake from Dundee will be joining us. He's on the road to recovery, and we'll get a wee insight into that road. Thanks to Mark Guidi from Alan Ruff and myself. Join us tomorrow on STV if you can. It all starts at 7.